Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bowls. I'm Lady Trample and I'm going to introduce you to our guests for today. On the top left corner, we have Witch or Kathleen, founder of Heretic Skate and a skater rep from the CIB Virginia area. On our bottom left, we have Ebony, co-admin, one of many co-admins of the CIB Boston chapter and ambassador for Black Girl Skate. Above me on the right, we have Hazley, CIB team skate member and another co-admin of CIB Boston. And I'm Lady Trample, founder of CIB. Welcome to Coffee and Bowls. Today we are creating an open space for conversations around community social justice issues. We're going to be leading our conversations today around roll call, rollout, and community-centric events. Before we get into the hows and whens, we want to start with the whys. So we're going to talk a little bit about the intention behind hosting a roll call, rollout, or even just a meetup. Anyone want to get started?
Okay,
So
well,
I'll just get started on why. Oh, do we have a delay?
Yeah,
We
you
have
got
a
it.
Go ahead,
delay.
Ebbs.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about sort of the rollout event that CIB Boston had maybe a month or so ago, and sort of the intention behind that. And the event itself, the idea sort of came about organically, and then we decided to do it in conjunction with Worldwide Rollout Day, which Skate Fantasy on Instagram had started that idea and popularized it and all of that. And so we decided to jump on that train and do something for the community. We sort of were looking at all of the protests that are happening around the nation and wanted to get involved and wanted to see what we could do for our community here. And so the event itself, the intention was, one, to gather a group of people that don't normally gather. So we got together different types of roller skaters, artistic, jam, derby, and park skaters that don't normally see each other, don't normally sort of communicate in that way. And then also invited other wheels, rollerbladers, skateboarders. And to sort of get these people together to see each other as a wider community instead of thinking of your community as just a sort of just your little group of park skaters, just sort of look up and realize that your community is bigger than you think it is, because there's power in community. And then also sort of a call to action, just because it was an event that attracts people that don't normally go to protests. Some people tend to be a little intimidated by the idea of going to a protest, or the word protest has sort of a bad rap, but going to like a roller rally or a rollout maybe is not so intimidating. And if they go there and get involved with their community and sort of hear the same message, that's another way to get more people involved that you may have not been able to reach in a traditional protest situation. And then it was also sort of a call to action for everybody that was there to see what you're capable of doing for your community and to maybe encourage those people to get more involved in other communities in their life, or to continue that action.
Witch, do you have anything to add?
Of course. So I, a year ago, just over a year ago, hosted Roll Call, which was a thing that was meant to bring together skaters of different colors and ethnicities together to like basically shine a light on like how amazing our community is, because at the time it just felt like there was a lot of like standard cis white like representation, and yet we had all these amazing skaters that were not getting like enough like hype. And so we just basically wanted to have this event with the help of Neon from VIPUC Who Skate, Kiana, and Cuban Missile. And I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. Am I forgetting anybody, Hazley? I don't think I am. But we basically just wanted to open up some conversations and still provide like a safe space where people could get a few classes, but more or less like just be like, hey, we're going to like sit down and talk about some things. And I feel like it opened up like an ability for people to like share past traumas that they may have not felt comfortable with, like in their own skate community, and just like open the door on that. And then I also recently, probably back in June, hosted skate in solidarity with Richmond Area Skateboard Alliance. So it was an all-wheeled event with bike as well, to just, again, be in connection with the protests that were currently going on in the city. But unfortunately, ours, while it was really great during the event, did not end well and did result with people being arrested and tear gassed. So that is the angle that I am coming from in that experience of like talking about rollouts and roll call events, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to say that even though you named some intentions that were sort of different from ours, every rollout or every event might not necessarily have the same intention. Just it's very important just to set the intention before you start organizing and before you start gathering volunteers and things like that, so that you all know what the mission is. Maybe this event has one mission and the next event is something different, but as long as everybody's on the same page, you're good.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
going
really
to
great
agree and
point.
elaborate.
Go for it.
Always you. I was just going to continue on to what Ebony says, because prior to our big event, like we do have different types of events and stuff, and we're trying to do even more just low key infused into our CIB meetups, just trying to make it more of a norm and less of a production to do. So before we actually did our event, we did a little tiny rollout where we just got together and discussed what we could do as a group to raise awareness, raise funds, what we, where we wanted to put the money towards. And that's when people brought up the idea of like, hey, like derby people aren't skating and jam skaters skate there, and the rinks are all closed. Like basically we're all in the same boat. We all want to skate. How can we come together? Which was part one was bringing people together. And then two, like once we're together, what can we do to give back to the community, better the community, share awareness, any one of those bullet points. And yeah, I think that was very helpful to have an intention set. And oh, is that what that is? Sorry. Have an intention set and just kind of like go from there. It makes planning a lot easier too.
I just wanted to say that that's a good point, that the big worldwide rollout day event that we did sort of came of a prior smaller event that we had. So when I guess it was Hazley and some others, I don't know who planned the rollout, I'm sorry, but the smaller rollout in Salem, it wasn't the intention that, oh, we're going to have this rollout so that we can start planning for something else. It was just, we're going to have this rollout and we're going to have these discussions amongst our skaters, and then something grew from that. So you never know what's going to happen, is my point.
So actually, it was my intention to do that. That was my last intended question, to see how we could give back as a community, because I actually did want to host something, but I'm just I'm not put together enough to host a whole event by myself. So I figured let's gather the group and gather in numbers and figure out what we can do as a group so that something can get done. I just want to add that.
I'm going to hook into what you're saying there. I think what I'm gathering from this so far is that the intentions can vary. They can be very specific to a protest that's going on and taking place. They can be in support of a movement. They can be in support of a charity. It's really on a needs by needs basis. And that's also going to be dependent on the region that you're in. And one of the ways that you can do this, especially if it's a first time, is start off with something a little bit smaller, just to kind of set the motions in place and work with a team so that it's not one person doing it, which also means that you're going to be more likely to get varying perspectives on board, and it takes the weight off one person to carry the load of it as well.
Absolutely.
Well, did anybody do this? Sorry, I'm not that great with that. That, and just like, I guess in general, I just want people to know that you don't have to be like, I admire you, Skate Witch. I do. And like, you're a lot of the reason why I do try to do the little things that I do. But I just feel like I am not always, I mean, time, I'm not at your level where, I'm out there protesting and I've been like, finding organization and working with them and donating canned goods and getting skaters together. But it's people like you who inspired me to do this. And I'm hoping that just conversations and just people seeing different types of people on here will show that you don't necessarily need to be a certain type of person to have a voice. I'm just trying to show different ways to have a voice, I guess, if that makes sense.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, I just wanted to co-sign because.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Ebony.
I just wanted to co-sign onto that because definitely not everybody has the same talents. Everybody has different talents. Everybody has something to contribute to these events or to any method of protesting or community involvement, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't mean that you have to be the one organizing the event or you have to be the one making the speeches or getting sponsors or things like that. Even in the event that I did, there were a ton of different people that helped me do different things. Like I don't have any design skills, but one of my skate friends does. They helped design the logo. I don't have any, I don't know. I don't have any knowledge of certain things. So there was a lot of people that helped. I had coaches from different areas of skating that have shared their expertise with other skaters. There's one skater that had a print shop that helped me make a banner. You don't have to be able to do it all. You just have to, speak up and ask your friends. They'll help you out. So that's all I have to say.
Community effort.
I think transparency is like everything with all this too. When you're talking about setting the intention, it's the same thing. If you're talking about people being like afraid of going out to protest and things like that, it's a matter of it doesn't have to be some amazing person to do any of this. It just has to be that you have a desire to help others and like putting that forth. And as far as like feeling afraid of going, like we know that if you can somehow better prepare yourself, and in this context, like better prepare your group and be transparent with them about like, hey, this is like our expectations for this event. This is what we're asking of you. These are the things we want you to think about before even going into this. I think it helps people have a better understanding of like, if you show up to this, it's for this reason. It's not just because you want to come hang out, like an intention behind this. And in the terms of safety, being transparent with people with like, hey, like, just so you know, you come to this, there are some risk factors and you need to make sure that you're comfortable with that. And when we talk about comfortability, it is like a matter of like finding the role that you're comfortable with as well. So when you're talking about Ebony, like finding like people to print things and design things, like I am someone that like, I can't design anything, but I have lots of friends who can. So reaching out to them and just being like, can you help me with this versus trying to put that all on your plate. It just helps lighten the load, and people are usually more than willing to help as well. But it's just a matter of just being honest with people and finding like your group that like wants to be just as involved. That's the thing. Like we don't have to look to leaders to like take action steps. You just have to want to do it and find like your channel for it, I guess.
I just wanted the fact that you said transparency. I like that. I was thinking about that as well. Transparency is key, not only just to set intention for everybody that's attending or helping organizing so that you have the right type of event, but also it can help a lot of other things. When you're transparent like that, it can help with troubleshooting. Sometimes the people helping you out will bring up things that you hadn't thought about or concerns that hadn't even crossed. Sometimes they have ideas on how you can make the event bigger or better that you hadn't thought of, or they have connections that you didn't know about, or they have access to something that you didn't know about. So just bringing voices to these ideas, even if you have an idea or a concept that you want to do that isn't all the way fleshed out yet, putting voice to those with your friend group or the people that you skate with, things like that can really sort of set the ball in motion even when you don't realize it. So being transparent, yes.
In terms of some of the things that you take into consideration when you are hosting, we got a little echo.
Sorry, I'm trying to read the comments. If I was trying to keep up so I could see the comments.
No, that's great. Yeah, we will keep an eye on the chat as well. So if anyone has questions throughout, myself and Hazley will try to keep an eye on it without playing through the actual feed. So to get into some of the logistics of actually hosting a rollout or a roll call or just a community-centric event, what are some tips that you've had from experience in hosting an event like this?
I think one good thing that Which brought up is ability level. It's when you're setting an event, it's good to know what sort of ability level you're expecting from the people that are attending your event. Because I've been to different types of skate protests. I've been to one that was primarily skateboarders and they're like zooming down the road, and I would never invite somebody that just started skating to something like that. And I've been to another protest that was all ages, and there was a junior derby league, and they were going very slow, and it's family friendly and that sort of thing. So when you have an event, sort of have an audience in mind and be very, vocal about what sort of skill level you're expecting from the people that are there. Maybe if they can't participate in the rollout, maybe they can participate in another aspect of the event. I went to one rollout where some people that didn't feel comfortable rolling were participating in the water station or helping to be medics. There's always something that needs to be done. So just to set that expectation as far as ability level.
So you said medics. That's not something that I would ever think to bring along to this kind of event. So typically I've been involved in more sort of meetup style events, which are hosted in a local park. What would the purpose of bringing a medic in, and is this more for rollouts where you're going to be traveling through the city, or let's hear from you, Which.
So during the marches that have been happening, I've been acting as a street medic, very new to it, but have like a basic training on how to treat tear gas and things like that. So like when we think about skating, I think of a medic for someone that might fall and like scrape their knee and need to have that treated. But in the experiences that we've had, unfortunately, it's not just a medic to make sure that you are like okay after you've fallen, but it's also like someone that can potentially treat you for chemical agents and things like that. And the reason I say this is because when we're talking about the audience, like what Ebony was saying is, so to me, talking about how there was 2 different rollouts that you had been to, I think that when you're planning a rollout, you have to consider your region and your audience and like who you are going to be in front of. Because I know like Hazley has had more intimate rollouts that might just take like a small like trek, and then you're going to have like a conversation amongst your peers. But then there are people that are having like rollouts in very large cities. And unfortunately, no matter how peaceful you plan to be, that does not ensure the safety of the people in your group. So having street medics or bike marshals as a part of your rollout, if you plan to do a big one at least, or in an area that you feel like it could potentially be quote unquote unsafe, then that's nice to have that extra like assurance of like if something happens, you are better prepared to handle it. And it's not just like leaving people that might be newer skaters that can't get away or have the ability to like go really fast with the crowd if you have to disperse. It seems extreme, but like this is the reality of like what we're dealing with right now. So.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you have a lot of, you've had a lot of experiences with the issues going on within Richmond. And I remember asking you about like even the smallest events, and you said even the smallest events have been interrupted. And I don't even know if you feel comfortable asking this, but in that situation, what is the best thing to do when the cops arrive and they're starting to be like,
Again, this is such a big conversation that I could have with all of you, but like from what I've been learning, it's a matter of you have to go with your gut. Like if you're coming as an ally, then you need to be potentially willing to like put your body at the front and protect those Black and brown folks that like need that assurance to get in between them and the police officers. However, if you're someone that's super inexperienced and like doesn't feel safe or comfortable in that situation at all, then you need to go home, because it's not safe for you to stay either in that point, and you should always be with a group no matter what. You shouldn't be going to any of these things alone, even if it is just a rollout, in my opinion. Try if you can to get your friends to come, just because there's more safety in numbers. But to me, the decision of like what do you do if the cops show up, that all depends on like what you think your role is, and There's really great graphics out there for like frontliners, whether it's like, shield patrol or if you want to be a street medic, typically those people hang out in the back a little bit. So it's again, it's just like a really big like topic I could cover, but we don't like need to get into all that right now. So
Oh no, it's all definitely helpful information. It actually kind of dawned on me that maybe it would be a good idea for skaters to skate with their names so that if anything does happen, and you are alone, like we could at least get to know each other's names if we're going to skate together. And if you anticipate that you could possibly get picked up by randos or actual police who are identified, that somebody knows your name or people are able to visualize your name quickly. I don't know if that's a good or bad idea, but it just kind of.
I think it's a good
Because now
idea
you know.
context of maybe not having it on you like visibly, but like before things start, having people get to know the folks around them. Like just be like, hey, like spend 5 minutes kind of embarrassing yourselves and like force them to like go talk to the people in their surrounding areas and stuff like that. Because also the thing is with all of this, the end goal of your rollout, one of those things should be to have a stronger community. But if you don't know the people in your community, then that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be not necessarily always like a first name basis, but like if you're not getting to know the people around you, then it's not really helping the goal move forward. I feel like that's just like me though. I feel like this has been a great opportunity for everybody to get to know their personal community versus just their skate community. So chapters are a little different, but
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you there. If you're going to these rollouts and you're not meeting anybody and you're not making connections, that's not really helping to garner further action. The whole point is that people will connect and do more in the future. It's the intent is not to have one rollout and okay, we're done, that's over. So if you're not connecting with the people around you, you're not really maximizing the effort that you're putting in.
Just
go ahead.
to,
Sorry.
No, you're okay. What I was going to say is I think, again, it comes down to giving what you're able to give. And actually, I want to throw back to something that you did, which for quite a long time, I remember, if my memory serves me right, you've been hosting can drives with the chapter annually every year. And so to see this next progression come from you is not surprising because this is something that you've already been doing. And while not everyone might be in the position to go out on a regular basis, there are things that you can do that are tangible in the everyday. And so taking it upon yourself to just do that little bit of research into things that are going on in your area and connecting in an authentic way, whether that is on skates or not, so that when the on skate actions start to happen, you already have those connections and you're not just forging them for something like this.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, whenever CIB first started, I always felt the intention was to be in more connection with the people in your community anyways. Like we were originally, when it was Chicks and Bowls, like the goal was to help empower other female identifying folks feel safe and comfortable at skate parks and show them that they can be confident in themselves. And with that, to me, it's like if you have the ability to have a group of people that all are like kind of carrying a similar interest and like enjoy something together, then why not use those numbers to help other people? So what you're talking about is Car Fest, and this would have been our 5th year, but like it started out as just being like, hey, we're going to have like a meetup before Thanksgiving. If everybody could bring a canned food item, that would be great. Like no reason to charge people for admission or anything. And then when I moved to where I live now, I was able to be like, hey, actually, can you bring a bag of canned food items? And like most people can do that without spending any money. And even if they can't, like, we're happy to take whatever they're able to provide and stuff. And then through that, it's provided like, I think close to 3,000 meals over the past few years. So I'm bummed we can't do it this year, but like can't do much with COVID. So
yeah,
I think
there
that's a great
is.
use of the platform.
Sorry.
Even though, Cam Foods doesn't necessarily have anything to do with roller skating, anytime you find yourself with an audience, you have so many skaters that are coming through, or you have so many people that are listening to you, you have to use your platform to do something. So kudos.
Yeah.
I need to use this side.
Too slow.
You go.
I really like the sliding scale that you spoke of as well, and I think that's something that I see quite a lot of in the skating community for events that might have a cost. Is bring this, and if you can't, tell us, and we will do something else. I know that with the free border skate rollouts that they were doing, that I think they were associated with the CIB chapters, and they were taking place just before COVID hit. The funds were going towards Lebanon, and it was like a $10 ticket, and all these chapters were organizing, and it was wonderful because all of these, I think we had 40 or 50 chapters that came together to put on these events, and it was a $10 ticket or contact the admin if you can't afford it. And if you can't afford it, we'll find a way for you to come along as well, because the intention is to raise funds, but the intention is also to create unity within the community and to get everyone together to skate for something good. So you putting things up that create that give something back to the community is awesome, but also recognizing when barriers for entry exist and making them removable, so that everyone can come along, even if they're not in an affluent position.
That is very true. Recognizing barriers is important. I will say sort of a couple things that I sort of thought about when we were planning our event with CIB Boston. Was one of them is location. For example, we wanted to host it within the city, even though we as park staters have a tendency to drive wherever to go to a skate park. We're all outside the city and hours away, but we wanted to have a community event, so it was really important that it was held inside of the city to make it easily accessible to people that live in the city. And then another thing was lots of flat ground space. Not everybody's used to transitions like CIB. But yeah.
Flat gowns before you transition to transition. Ooh.
I don't know what this means.
It means you go.
Sorry, I don't know. Oh, okay. I was going to say I'm working on several projects of trying to raise funds and awareness and just find different ways of doing things. Since we have a boatload of new skaters everywhere all over the world, I'm going to start doing some clinics where I'll either do a fee, or if, COVID relief cans, I'll take cans, depending on the event, to different things. I have a few organizations in mind that I want to donate to. And then we also have a local skating rink called Chez Vous. Been in Boston for about 50 years, Black owned, within the family too. So, they've also been obviously closed due to COVID. So we want to add them and include them in, well, I know I do, but CIB Boston, from what I believe, is also going to try and find ways to promote and do things for that as well. So there are different ways that you can do it without having to do protests or anything like that. So I feel like for me, I'll be able to get to meet new skaters more intimately, but I'll also be able to raise some kind of awareness or money for an organization. The other thing will be raffles. Thanks to CIB, one of my sponsors, and Cheese Ball Bearings, I'll be raffling off some stuff where the proceeds will also go to different organizations. I'm trying to line it up so that it's not really going with other raffles at the same time or whatever. I still also have to figure out the shipping and everything like that. But once I get there, hopefully September, we'll be doing more of that. And I know we're planning a rollout and then hopefully an event to follow, kind of the same way we did it before, where we do a rollout, we discuss, and this is one's going to be more of a naturist rollout, and then we discuss at the end. We can do signs and stuff because it's a very popular route. So we'll still have a little bit of awareness. It'll just be with the walkers and runners and bikers. And then hopefully the following weeks, we can plan an event where we do another big fundraiser.
I was just going to say that it doesn't always have to be just monetary help, because if anything that I've gotten to realize we need more of throughout all of this has been just more mutual aid in general. So when you're talking about fundraising and things like that, it definitely helps towards those actions, but it can be for individual actions, it can be as simple as like preparing meals or providing supplies and things like that. However, what I've been thinking about with rollouts in general lately, but I don't know if anyone's tried it yet, is like, I think like signing petitions if you can, providing those for people in that place, or even like getting people to register to vote while they're there. If you have the means to make happen, these are really simple ways that like at the beginning of your meetup, you can do that kind of stuff. And then after that, like you can, continue to have conversations, but you've gotten something, I guess, a step forward versus just being like, give us your money. Like they get to like, I don't know. I think the people involved also get to get more fulfilled, I guess, out of that maybe.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Another idea I had was grocery shopping too, using the money to grocery shop if I did like a nursing home or something like that or a shelter. But I do love that you pointed that out. Oh, I just forgot what I was going to say. Embarrassing. Somebody talk, I'll remember.
But I just want to say yes about you don't always have to give money to find people that want to give their time. Time is very important. So the whole rollout idea can be taken in different directions. I saw one Instagrammer, Unicourt. She went out in Connecticut and had a rollout where they were picking up trash in the neighborhood. So you can get creative with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily always have to be about collecting money.
That's great advice. One of the things we're also going to be doing is we are going to transcribe some of this, some of the tips, pro tips that you've given in this chat into a blog so that people can read it. Because honestly, this is one of the questions that we get the most is like, how do we host these kinds of events? How do we help? And so just kind of collating it in a way where it's like roller skate centric, but it's like, hey, you're a roller skater. Guess what? These are things you can do. Like they don't have to be money. They don't have to be these big grandiose things. But one of the best ways that you can get involved is just be consistent, just constantly be doing something. Continuously doing the change will start to take effect. But if you're just doing one thing and making this one thing your one thing that you do, and then that's it, then that it doesn't actually drive any kind of progression.
Mm-hmm.
I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say if you have the chance, change.org, if you subscribe to their email, or even if you just sign up if you sign one petition. I've signed like 1 million petitions already. And I always sign things that like I agree with. I'm not going to just sign everything that they send me, but it's a good way to they also keep you in the loop too, but it's a good way to kind of keep up with petitions and signing things like that too, because we all know the importance of petitions now.
I think one of the things that we spoke about as well was potentially some lessons that you might have learned from events that you've hosted. Almost not so much like to scare people out of it, but what have there been any takeaways of things that you're like, I would do this differently next time because, and you don't necessarily even need to go into the reasoning, but just some sort of like, I learned this so you don't have to.
I'll definitely say for ours, sorry, I threw the thing up. Try not to over plan too much in one would definitely be my advice, because I think, I know we agreed with the next one, because with our first one, we did like the first part, we all got together, we chatted and mingled a little bit, free skate, then we did a rollout, then we did lessons, then we did a speech, then we did raffles. So it was a lot. We fit it all in, but it was a lot. So I know we are now going to keep our rollout separate from our actual events. So the rollout will be more about bringing people together and having conversations. The events will be more about bringing people together and making donations or awareness, things like that.
Definitely. I would say a couple things that I learned from rollouts. One is keeping an eye on the speed, depending on whoever your audience is, especially when you have mixed wheels. You know, bikes tend to go a lot faster than skateboarders and roller skaters. So it's always good to keep the slowest people in front or the beginners in front so that they can sort of set the pace and everybody else can stay together. It's also a good idea to have whatever you want to call them, marshals or crossing guards or whatever. If you have a couple people that are volunteering to lead the group and then a couple people at the back just to make sure nobody gets left behind, and to sort of help you communicate if you need to speed up or slow down or something like that. But speed is really important. You want to make sure you keep the group together. You don't want to sort of get split up in a rollout situation. And then one other thing was that I just want to say I would, in terms of safety, just to have, if you can have somebody in a car following, because sometimes there might be somebody who sort of taps out in the middle of the rollout, or they might get tired, or they might not feel well. It's good to have a car trail you just in case.
That's great advice. I actually experienced something similar on Go Skate Day, where they had a big skate down through Denver City, and I was part of a group that got lost. So having a map that goes out in advance is actually really helpful, because it just means that, if you end up taking the wrong street, because I'm also not from here, so it's not like my instincts kicked in and I was like, don't worry, everybody, we'll go this way. Making sure that you have, something like that, or just have, trail leaders and people holding up the rear that can help direct to make sure everyone's going in the same direction, just to keep everyone together.
Something I saw at a rollout that I didn't plan but went to with a bunch of jam skaters is they actually had a car in the front that would stop every other block, and then a car behind as well, so that they could make sure no one got like pushed up, I guess, from traffic. But it was nice to like have that car like at every other light or block stop, knew that like people had time to catch up, and like because it was a group of jam skaters, it was cool too, because they would always like play around and stuff as we waited for the rest of the group and everything to like catch up. And I don't know, it just seemed to be a really good system. I think in planning I've learned a lot of things through planning, but for me, it's more just like as someone that plans, you have to ask yourself what your expectation for yourself is for that day, because I find that I'm always stressed out the entire time during an event. And part of that's delegating, but part of it is also just trying to make sure everybody else is happy. So I typically don't get to skate a lot during it because I'm just checking on everybody. So I think it's a matter of, if you're going to plan something, make sure you have either a really great team to support you, or just make sure that like, if you find yourself getting stressed out or frustrated, that like you just remember like the whole reason you're doing it, and like look to see how good of a time everybody else is having or what their experience might be, instead of your own personal like situation.
Well, and just to touch on that as well, I think making sure that you make time to fill up your own cup as well. So like if you're constantly putting on these events in a leadership position and you're not able to enjoy them in the same way, and absolutely the reason, the intention behind them is super important, and so there's fulfillment from that, but it also will, the stress of it can actually take it to the unfun place in some ways. So making sure that you have time to go out and skate and just remind yourself that you also love this thing, so that when you go in to put on these events, you have that recharged energy to give back. Like batteries can't charge.
Mm-hmm. I would also say, just to touch base again on what Skate Witch said earlier, is if you can, especially if you're new, go with a friend, because I've experienced where someone with asthma was just feeling a little bit short of breath about halfway through the route, and I was the back person, but her friend was able to help her get back to, because we said, what do you want to do? We think it's safe that you turn around and just kind of like go rest in the shade, have some water. So she was able to do that safely with her friend taking her. Of course, if her friend wasn't there, I would have taken her, or Callie, the other person who was in the back with me. But it's also nice. It's always nice to know that you have that reassurance that if something does happen, because it's still summer, and in some places it's going to be summer for a while. So it's hot. People get heat strokes, people get asthma attacks, things happen. So it's always nice to know that you have like a little buddy system sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have a question regarding getting people to sort of speak at these events, because I know that there's been a lot of events that have, a lot of the protests obviously have speakers, but some of the rollouts and roll calls, what's your advice in terms of how to actually bring people on board, looking for the right kinds of people that are going to have um, that are going to feel comfortable having those kinds of conversations as well, because it's a lot of emotional labor to say, hey, will you come and speak on this topic? I know that's something that me and Hazley have talked about a lot, even just in hosting the show, is asking people to come in and have conversations like this. So do you have advice, Kathleen?
I only have advice because this is something I'm currently dealing with. I am not going to say the city I'm going to, but I'm going to a city where a lot of stuff is happening, and we're trying to do a teach-in basically, which would consist of like for the skate community, but it's focusing on the topics of like protecting yourself and what restorative justice looks like in the skate community as well. But the thing is that the city that I'm visiting, I am an outsider coming into a space where people have had to like, be really protective of what they dress in, what days they go out, and how they present themselves because of how intense the situations are in certain cities. My thing is if you're going to approach people that are involved with things a little bit heavier, you need to like be really respectful of their space and time, because if they're putting themselves at risk to speak at these events, then like that needs to be considered. And you have to work within their like limits of like their comfort level. And also something that's been pointed out to me is like, if you're going to ask Black and brown folks to speak at events, pay them, because they deserve it, or see what they need, I guess would be the better way to put it, instead of just being like, let me put more of this work on your shoulders if you're willing to like do it. Like some people will want to just do it to like help you out, but like there's a lot emotionally to like carry. So that's just been a conversation that I've had with people in Richmond that are like leading a lot of things, and then also conversations I've had with other CIB chapters on like what we can do.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you. I was just going next. um, Another route is if you don't necessarily have or can't get speakers, you can always do the open conversation forum where you sit in a circle. But we did both, where we had the conversation, but we also had with the other one, Ebony actually spoke. And Ebony, I would actually like to know what your process was when you um, put the speech together, and how you figured out what you wanted to cover, what you wanted to talk about. It was a very good speech for those of you who weren't there.
Thank you. Honestly, when Trample asked the question about getting speakers, I was waiting to see what Kathleen was going to say, because I don't know how to get a speaker, so I spoke myself. But when I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to say? First of all, I'm not a public speaker, so that, this was kind of scary for me. But whenever I was thinking about what to say, it sort of came on paper, because throughout planning this event, over however many weeks it took to plan it, I was thinking about the intention of the event and why we're doing it, and everything that I'm doing, I'm sort of keeping that in mind. So by the time it got to the point where I'm speaking about the event, I sort of know what I want to say. I was just trying to figure out how to convey that message in the best way possible. And so also at the event, Derek from Shebu was there, so I asked him to say some words, just sort of like on the side. I was like, hey, do you want to say something to the audience? Anything that you want to convey while we're here? We have an audience, they're listening. So that was really nice. I was happy that he stepped up and decided to say some words also.
I think it's like, I'm hoping like with what I was talking about, like I'm hoping to get more speakers, but I also think like if you have a good group of people that's helping you with whatever you're planning, just like ask them how they feel about it as well too. And like see, like if you can't get a speaker for some reason, but you feel like you've done your part to like educate yourself, then yeah, exactly, go Ebony's route, and like don't be afraid to like speak up. It's just a matter of like making sure you're doing it mindfully, I guess.
I am
Absolutely.
going to try and take some of that information though, because I think another thing, if you are doing a fundraiser base, you can always reach out to them and say, is there anybody there who would like to come and speak about what you do? Maybe that's another thing. You can have them talk about their organization and what they do for the community, if you necessarily can't find a speaker who's going to hit the points that you want to get across.
That's awesome. We are almost coming to sort of wrap up time. So, is there anything else that we would like to, that either of you two or Hazley would like to bring up to the conversation?
I did just want to mention the COVID risk since we haven't sort of brought it up yet, but I feel like as our here in Boston, it hasn't been as much of a problem to get people to comply because when I have the event, I sort of let people know, and I let even when it was just CIB Boston, as I'm speaking to them, I let them know, hey, when we go to this event, just make sure everyone's wearing masks. We're going to have hand sanitizer. Just know that if all of us are wearing masks, then when people show up, they have that sort of peer pressure or societal pressure. I'm going to wear a mask too. So if you sort of start off on the right foot, you get everybody on the same page. People just sort of fall in line. So definitely just encourage your organizers to encourage that sort of behavior. Make sure you put it on the flyer, things like that, so people know what to expect when they show up.
She also actually brings masks too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for that. I know that that's a big thing in the community, and most of the time that I've been going to the skate park lately, everyone, and I'm not even just talking about roller skaters, but most of the skate park doesn't have them. So I've been really trying to make a point of wearing it because I would love to see society get back to some sorts of normalcy there. So leading by example whenever you can, and if you are hosting an event or involved in a chapter, please just try to make that part of your communication to the community so that they know that that's an expectation. And if you have the means to have spares on hand, then you can always go and just drop one in the lap of someone who's non-compliant.
Definitely.
I just wanted to say, I know in a previous chat we had that Trample, you talked about the potential of doing these things online as well. So for me, it's like, while this is all revolving around the skate community, these are our peers, and like these conversations and like these events don't have to necessarily happen on skates. They can be done in like a park setting where you just get your chapter together to like have a conversation, or like Trample had talked to me about like doing like an Zoom call or something like that, or just even recording conversations like these and putting them out there for other people to see. Really, and I think it's a matter of chat ask like what your goals and expectations are for your chapter as well. Like how much do you want to do with those?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think again, it's just another example of different ways that we can stay involved, communicate, connect. Because again, there's a lot of information out there, but I think sometimes it can be overwhelming to know even where the right place to look is. And so having conversations with people that you actually have a connection to is one of the best ways for impactful change to happen and impactful conversations. So, like you were saying, like if you have the ability to host a Zoom or have an online call with your chapter or go meet up in just a green field and talk through things or have a thread, like a chat messenger where you just share resources, all of these things, they really start to add up and create impact.
I agree. I love that you brought that up, Kathleen, because I totally forgot that I even have some like baby ideas of like, why can't we just get together and dye wheels together? People have been doing the tie-dye shirt things forever. So let's get together, do tie-dye shirts, do wheels, and let's talk because it's not only about awareness and everything like that. It is very important, but sometimes it's just cathartic to talk. Sometimes it's nice to just get around people who can who are on the same plane as you or just have at least the same mentality or even who can challenge your mentality or bring things that you wouldn't have thought about before. It's always just good to talk. I feel like that's for me like one of my favorite, as much as anyhow, I just think it's important to find different avenues to connect and to communicate because even if it's not to make change, you do end up making change by communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, if we don't have anyone want to bring up anything else before we sign off?
How long do we have? I was going to say,
Bye-bye.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I just want to shout out my organization.
Yes,
So
yes.
Black Girl Skate is a growing nonprofit organization amplifying female and non-binary skaters who identify as Black, African, or of color. And so you can check us out on Instagram, Black_girls_skate, or blackgirlskate.org. You can also donate. That's all.
I'll drop it in the chat. And anything from you, Kathleen?
Go ahead.
Not really. I mean, we at Heretic. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut somebody off? Maybe not.
You got it.
Over at Heretic Skate, we do have a shirt that is up for sale. That 100% of the profits go towards an organization called No Left Turns, which does community care work with the carceral system. And then it also goes to MAD RVA, which is Mutual Aid Distro. So if you would like to buy yourself a shirt, I would recommend going and getting that one so that we can keep giving them money, because we want it to be continuous and try to do a donation every week. So that's all I got there.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you I'm not one. Thank you, three, for being here. Hazley, Kathleen, and Tiffany, really appreciate your time. I know I just thanked myself, weirdo. It's been really great to talk to you about this, and I'm so grateful that we're able to share your insights into these types of events with the community. So we will be transcribing some of the conversations from this and the key points into a bit of a blog that we'll share with everyone. So if anyone has any further questions, obviously feel free to reach out. You can get me at Lady Trample, and we've got all of our little tags there, so you can hit us up on our Instagrams. But thank you again for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will sign off for the night.
Thank you.